Religio Dolphins. Welcome back to another Read Aloud. This is for our kinder through third graders. I'm really excited about the book that we're reading today. This is a book that I read oftentimes with my fourth graders and sometimes even with my seventh graders, and they loved it. So I do think it's a book that our older kids are really going to enjoy. It is called The True Story of the Three Little Pigs by A. Wolfe. So we get to actually hear about the story of the three little pigs, but through the wolf's eyes, through the wolf's perspective, which is very interesting and very different than the traditional story that we're so accustomed to hearing. The author of this book is John Ciesica, and it's illustrated by Lane Smith. Everybody knows the story of the three little pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolfe. You can call me Al. I don't know how this big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. Take a look at how huge that hamburger is, that cheeseburger. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. Here is the real story. Way back in Once Upon a Time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold and I ran out of sugar. So I walked down to the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now this neighbor was a pig. And he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house of straw? So why was he going to the first little pig's house? What is it that he needed? Yeah, he was going for a cup of sugar. So of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't just want to walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in? No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed, and I snuffed, achoo! And I sneezed a great sneeze. And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down. And right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate him up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger just lying there. So what is the wolf saying about eating the first little pig? Why did he do that? Was he trying to be mean? No, he's saying that when he sneezed, the house fell down and it accidentally killed him. He didn't mean to do it on purpose. He was laying there dead. And then what are you supposed to do when you're a wolf? It'd be like us denying a cheeseburger. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar, so I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house out of sticks. I rang the doorbell of the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? He yelled back, Go away, wolf, you can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin. Make a prediction. What do you think is going to happen? Let's find out. I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed, and I snuffed, and I tried to cover my mouth, but achoo! I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Now, you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open, so I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as like a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little bit better. And I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house out of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? And do you know what that rude little porker said? Get out of here, Wolf. Don't bother me again. What do you think's going to happen? Make another prediction. Let's find out. Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't give me even one little cup for my dear sweet old granny's birthday cake? What a pig! I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed, and I snuffed, and I achoo! Sneezed again. Then the third little pig yelled, and your old granny can sit on a pin. Look at how mean his eyes look. Not a nice pig at all. Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about my Grammy like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course I was trying to break down the pig's door, and the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. The rest, as they say, is history. The news reporters found out about the two pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting, so they jazzed up the story with all that huff and puff and blow your house down. And they made me the big bad wolf. That's it, the real story. I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar. Isn't that fun to hear a story through the wolf's perspective, through the wolf's eyes? Okay, so here's what I'd like you to do today. This is the activity that you guys can participate. You can either draw a picture and then write a little bit after your picture, or you could just write a story. I'd like you to take a fairy tale, any kind of fairy tale. So it could be the Three Little Pigs, it could be Little Red Riding Hood, it could be Cinderella, any story that comes to mind, and I'd love for you to rewrite it from another character's perspective. Maybe taking whoever's bad, for example, in Little Red Riding Hood, there's a bad wolf in that one as well, and retelling the story from that character's perspective. If you're younger, you could draw a picture of a fairy tale and then maybe write a few sentences that go along with that, talking about what really happened in the story. Much like this wolf. Was your villain framed? Was that not the true story? Do this activity, and I would love for you guys to share it with a family member, a parent, a brother or sister. Have the opportunity to share your story and get creative. I wish I could read these. If you do this activity when we get back to school, I'd love to hear the stories you guys come up with. All right, you guys have a great rest of the day. Until next time, dolphins, bye.